"Tyler, why are you throwing out my clothes? Those are my favorites!" I exclaimed, voice sharp as I watched him toss my beloved denim jacket into a box marked Donate. Tyler glanced up, a smirk curling his lips. "Jenna, you don't need so many things. I'm decluttering for both of us. Trust me, you'll thank me later." I stood there, stunned. My husband of 10 years had never behaved like this before. We lived a pretty average life in our suburban home. I worked as a graphic designer. Tyler had a stable job in IT. Our life wasn't perfect, but it was comfortable. But standing in our cluttered bedroom, which Tyler was transforming into a museum of minimalism, I felt anything but comfortable. "You're kidding, right?" I asked, hoping to see a glimmer of a joke in his eyes. But he was dead serious. "No, Jenna, it's time for a change. We have too much unnecessary stuff. It's suffocating." "Suffocating? Are you listening to yourself? Those are my belongings. You can't just throw them away." My voice wavered between anger and disbelief. Tyler shrugged, continuing to sort through my things. "I've been reading about minimalism. It's supposed to clear our minds, reduce stress." "Whose mind? Your mind? I need my things, Tyler. I use them." I tried to pull my jacket from the pile, but he held it firmly. "Relax, Jenna. You'll see. This is for the best." Infuriated, I walked out of the bedroom and into my office. I needed space away from his crazy new obsession. As I sat at my desk, I stared at my computer, trying to work, but my thoughts blazed with anger. What had gotten into him? Tyler's sudden interest in minimalism clashed with everything about our daily life. I loved our cozy, cluttered home filled with memories, the trinkets from our travels, the art supplies scattered around, the bookshelf overflowing with stories. It was part of who I was. That night, lying in bed, I turned to Tyler. "I don't appreciate you making these decisions without me. We need to respect each other's things." He turned to face me, that infuriating smirk replaced by determination. "You'll see, Jenna. Soon you'll understand." I turned away, pulling the covers tightly around me, seething quietly. If he thought I was just going to sit by and watch him discard my life, he was mistaken. The next morning, I found more of my things gone. The books I'd been reading, my favorite coffee mug from college, even the houseplants I loved tending had vanished. I wandered through our home that was rapidly becoming a sterile, soulless space. Confronting Tyler in the living room, I struggled to keep my voice calm. "Tyler, we've got to talk. This has to stop." He put down his minimalist guide and met my gaze. "Jenna, in time you'll appreciate this. It's for our mental clarity." Was he kidding? Mental clarity? I felt on the edge of snapping. "This isn't about clarity. It's about control, Tyler. Stop treating me like I don't matter." His eyes flared, but he didn't reply. The silence stretched, thick with tension. As the days went by, the house grew emptier, and my anger grew. Tyler's dismissive attitude only added fuel to the fire gnawing at my patience. Something had to give, but for now I felt cornered, constantly grappling with the loss and the turmoil he brought into our once contented home. The struggle for control loomed large, and I knew I had to find a way to reclaim my space, my peace, and my sanity. But how? I woke up with a sense of unease, knowing I had an important project deadline. As I reached for my tablet and stylus, my heart sank. They were gone. Frantically, I searched around my office, the drawer, the desk, even the bookshelf. Nothing. "Tyler!" I screamed, storming into the kitchen where he sat sipping his morning coffee. He looked up with that same smirk. "Morning, Jenna, what's the panic? My work tools, my tablet, my stylus, my sketch pad, where are they?" I demanded, feeling my heartbeat in my throat. He leaned back, looking entirely too pleased with himself. "I hid them. You need to focus on real life, not on screens." "Are you out of your mind?" I shouted, anger making my words sharp. "I need those for my job, Tyler. This isn't some hobby. It's how I pay the bills." He shrugged nonchalantly. "You're too dependent on these things. I did this for your own good." My fists clenched. "For my own good? You're sabotaging my work. Give them back now." "Not until you calm down and realize I'm right," he said, standing up and crossing his arms. Desperation clawed at my insides. I didn't have time for this. My deadline was looming, and every minute without my tools was another nail in the coffin of my professional reputation. "Where did you put them?" I asked, my voice breaking. "There are more important things than your deadlines, Jenna. Trust me, this is tough love," he said, making me feel like a child being scolded. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my car keys and left the house, driving aimlessly just to clear my head. I ended up at a coffee shop, trying to figure out how to salvage my project. But without my tools, I was helpless. Hours passed, and I knew I'd never make the deadline. My client's messages went from concerned to irate. Back home, Tyler sat watching TV, unbothered by the chaos he'd caused. "Are you ready to admit you're too consumed by technology?" he asked when I walked in. "I missed my deadline," I said flatly, my voice hollow. "Maybe it's a wake-up call," he replied, eyes still glued to the screen. "Tyler, you cost me a major project. I could lose my job over this," I said, fighting back tears. He finally looked at me. "You're overreacting. One project isn't going to end your career. It's all part of the process of simplifying our lives." I couldn't believe his arrogance. "You just don't get it, do you?" I felt a wave of hopelessness crash over me. Days later, the fallout from missing that deadline hit. I received an email from my boss, expressing severe disappointment and hinting that my future projects would be closely scrutinized. My career, something I'd worked so hard to build, was now hanging by a thread, all because of Tyler's absurd obsession. I cornered Tyler as he was sorting through another box of my belongings. "This stops now, Tyler. If you touch anything else, we're done." He laughed, not taking me seriously. "You love me too much to leave, Jenna." Rage and despair mingled inside me. "We'll see," I whispered, more to myself than to him. The days that followed were tense. Tyler continued his minimalist crusade, ignoring my warnings. Our home, once filled with my creative energy, now felt like a battleground. The man I married was gone, replaced by someone I no longer recognized. And as much as I hated the thought, I knew I had to fight back. But how? Margaret's advice replayed in my mind. Maybe it was time for a new strategy. I woke up to another day in our increasingly empty house. As I went to grab breakfast, I noticed my favorite coffee mug was gone. Again. "Tyler," I called out, but he was nowhere to be found. Instead, piles of items marked for donation cluttered the living room. Books, frames, even my art supplies. "Tyler, you better not have touched my things again," I yelled, my voice echoing through the silent house. Entering my office, the sinking feeling hit me before I fully saw the damage. My art supplies, the brushes, the paints, the canvases, gone. Just a blank, sterile space where creativity used to live. Panic and fury swept over me. Tyler walked in with a smug look. "Morning, Jenna. You seem tense." "You've gone too far this time," I said, my voice shaking. "Where are my art supplies?" "Gone. You're better off without them," he said calmly, as if discussing the weather. I stormed towards him, my anger boiling over. "You had no right. Those were important to me. They were irreplaceable." "You need to let go," he said, his tone devoid of empathy. "Let go of what? My passion? My career? You're destroying everything I care about." "Sometimes destruction is needed for renewal," he said, still infuriatingly calm. Calm was the last thing I felt. Breathing heavily, I decided I couldn't reason with him. I walked out, slamming the door behind me. It was time to call Marissa. At the coffee shop, I met Marissa, who instantly saw the desperation on my face. "Jenna, what's going on?" "Tyler's gone completely off the deep end. He's thrown out nearly everything I own," I said, barely holding back tears. She reached across the table and took my hand. "That's it. We're doing something about this." "But what can we do? He doesn't listen to reason." Marissa thought for a moment. "Document everything. Photograph, record, build evidence. Then we'll figure out how to hit him where it hurts." "How do I even start?" "Start with whatever he throws out next," she said firmly, "and don't let him see you do it." The plan was bold, but I felt a spark of hope. "All right, I'll do it." Returning home, Tyler eyed me with suspicion. "Where did you go?" "Just needed some air," I muttered, avoiding his gaze. Over the next few days, I carefully documented everything he discarded. The photographs, the videos, hidden carefully in places he wouldn't find. I made sure to keep a record of how his actions disrupted every facet of my life. Meanwhile, Tyler continued his rampage, unknowingly walking into my trap. The breaking point came one evening when I discovered him holding my mother's jewelry box. "No," I screamed, lunging towards him. "Not that, Tyler. Please, not that." He looked at me, eyes cold. "It's just stuff, Jenna." "That's my mother's, Tyler. It's all I have left of her," I pleaded, tears streaming down my face. His expression didn't change. "You need to learn to let go." "That's it, Tyler. If you toss that, we're done. Do you hear me? Done!" I shouted, my voice echoing off the bare walls. Marissa entered the scene, a fierce look on her face. "Tyler, stop," she commanded. "Throw that out, and you'll regret it." He hesitated, then smirked. "Too late for that," he said, tossing the box into the garbage bin. My heart shattered. The final, irrevocable act. I looked at Marissa, who nodded. It was time for the next phase of our plan. I walked away, finalizing my resolve. Now it was my turn to teach Tyler a lesson he'd never forget. I stared at the garbage bin, the final resting place of my mother's jewelry. The pain was overwhelming, but it solidified my resolve. I needed an escape, a real plan for my future without Tyler. That evening, I met up with Marissa in her cozy, cluttered apartment. It was a sharp contrast to my now barren home. "I can't live like this anymore," I said, my voice shaky. Marissa nodded. "I know. I've been thinking, Jenna. You need a plan." "What kind of plan?" I asked, sipping the coffee she handed me. "First, you need to make him think you've accepted his lifestyle. Stop fighting him. Let him believe you're on his side. Meanwhile, prepare your exit strategy." "Exit strategy?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yes. Document everything, keep a record, and start putting away money quietly. You'll need it for when you leave." I took a deep breath. "All right, I'll do it." The next day, I began pretending to go along with Tyler's minimalist fantasy. "You're right, Tyler," I said over dinner. "Maybe we do need less stuff." He looked pleased, almost smug. "I knew you'd see it my way, Jenna." Meanwhile, I documented every unsupportable action, every violation of my privacy, every discarded belonging. I used my hidden savings to consult a lawyer, making sure I knew my rights. Weeks went by and Tyler sold off even more of our things under the guise of making our lives better. "I put the couch up online," he said one evening as I returned from Marissa's. "The couch?" I asked, trying to mask my growing irritation. "Yeah, we can get a couple of chairs instead. Less is more, right?" he said with a condescending smile. "Less is more," I echoed, forcing a smile. Inside, my resolve solidified. Around the same time, I noticed Tyler making plans to sell more of my beloved art supplies and personal items. "Thinking of listing some more of your paints," he said offhandedly one morning. With a mental note, I added this to my growing pile of evidence. My secret revenge was close, and I felt a surge of confidence. Each day I felt stronger, more in control, knowing Tyler's arrogance would soon come crashing down. Tyler was oblivious, flush with arrogance. He didn't notice my growing distance, the way I no longer argued. He didn't notice me strategically placing cameras and taking notes. His confidence was his blindfold, and I used it to my advantage. One night, he came into the living room holding a box of my old letters and cards. "Do we really need to keep these old things?" he asked, not even waiting for an answer before heading to the trash bin. "Go ahead," I said casually, hiding the pain. Inside, I reminded myself this was temporary. This destruction would end soon. Marissa and I met regularly, meticulously planning every step. "He thinks you're on board," she said during one of our meetings. "This is good. Keep it up." "I will," I promised, determination pulsing through me. Tyler's arrogance made it easy. He continued his rampage, assuming I was finally seeing the wisdom of his ways. But every step he took to simplify our lives pushed him further into his downfall. My documentations grew, painting a picture of his complete disregard for me and everything we built together. The countdown had begun. Every discarded item, every condescending smile, every moment of arrogance fed into the plan. I was ready. He was unknowingly forging the path to his own ruin, and soon, very soon, he would face the consequences of underestimating me. I took a deep breath, knowing that my revenge was inching closer. Tyler's world would implode, and from the wreckage, I'd rise stronger than ever. Every morning felt like a new opportunity to gather more evidence. I stealthily cataloged Tyler's increasingly outrageous actions, frequently pausing my routine to photograph or record him. The house was no longer a home, but a battleground I had mapped out meticulously. One afternoon, Tyler came home, elated. "Jenna, guess what?" he announced, grinning as if he just won the lottery. "What is it?" I asked, feigning interest. "I sold the car, took it straight to the junkyard," he said proudly. I felt a surge of anger but masked it with a smile. "Really? And how are we supposed to get around now?" "Oh, we can make do. Use public transport. Walk. It's better for the environment," he said smugly. Inside, I was seething. The car had been another line crossed, another proof of his disregard. I secretly recorded his announcement, adding it to my growing collection of evidence. My escape fund was steadily growing, and the pieces of my plan were falling into place. Marissa and I sat down that evening, going through the documentation. "You're doing great, Jenna. Just a bit longer, and you'll have all you need," she encouraged. "I just need to stay focused," I replied, determination in my voice. Later, Tyler continued his spree by selling off more of the furniture. "We can live a simple life with the essentials," he said, pretending to be wise. "I've got some buyers for the dining table and chairs." Anger simmered, but I nodded, playing my part. "I suppose you're right. Less is more." Over the next few days, Tyler's arrogance peaked. He never asked, never second-guessed his decisions, always convinced of his righteousness. He even proudly shared his minimalist philosophy with our friends, receiving mixed reactions. "You're ruining Jenna's life," Marissa snapped at one such gathering. "This isn't minimalism, it's madness." Tyler only chuckled. "You'll understand eventually. Jenna, tell them how much better things are now." I forced a smile. "It's a big adjustment, but I'm starting to see the benefits." In reality, each declaration solidified my resolve. His downfall would be both swift and brutal. My lawyer had prepared everything for the divorce, ensuring my financial security and protection. I discussed final preparations with Marissa, fine-tuning the public revelation of Tyler's actions. One night, Marissa and I set up hidden cameras throughout the house, positioning them to capture Tyler's every arrogant move. We ensured they were discreet, undetectable. Tyler, none the wiser, continued his tirade unchecked. The final straw came when Tyler decided to sell my laptop, the one lifeline to my work. "It's a distraction," he argued, "keeping you tied to the old ways." I listed my rejection in silent screams, recording him listing it online. "Sure, Tyler, go ahead," I managed weakly, inside burning with fury. Marissa met me outside that night. "Tomorrow, Jenna. We release the footage tomorrow." I nodded, a mix of anxiety and anticipation churning within. "I'm ready." The next morning, Tyler beamed with unearned pride. "I've arranged for the final pickup. Soon we'll be truly free." I smiled, hiding my true feelings. The footage would go live today. I pressed the button, releasing the carefully edited clips of Tyler's increasingly erratic behavior online. Within hours, our little suburban nightmare started to spread like wildfire. Calls started pouring in. Tyler's phone buzzed nonstop. Confused and frustrated, he turned to me. "What's happening?" "You're finally facing the consequences, Tyler," I said, watching his expression shift from confusion to horror. Our life as he knew it was about to implode, and I felt a sense of justice finally taking form. I had steps to take, legal papers to file, a future to reclaim. What came next was his downfall, a consequence he never saw coming. Tyler's phone buzzed incessantly as the footage circulated online. He looked bewildered, flipping through calls and messages. The smirk that had become a permanent fixture on his face was gone, replaced by a taut scowl. "What is happening, Jenna?" Tyler snapped, eyes narrowing. I met his gaze, feeling a wave of satisfaction. "The world is seeing your minimalist lifestyle for what it really is, Tyler." Confusion turned to rage. "You did this? You filmed me?" "You left me no choice. You've dismantled my life piece by piece," I said calmly. "Now everyone knows." He stormed into the living room, flipping through the channels. Every news segment, every website showed his face, his actions, our story. His drastic measures narrated with clips of his irrational behavior for all to see. "You're ruining me," he yelled, grabbing the remote with a white-knuckled grip. "No, Tyler, you ruined yourself. I just exposed the truth," I replied, feeling a rush of long-overdue empowerment. The doorbell rang, and I opened it to find Marissa. She looked at Tyler, then back at me. "It's spreading everywhere, Jenna. His actions, his words, it's all out in the open." Tyler lunged toward her, rage emanating from him. "You're in on this, too?" Marissa stood her ground. "You deserve every bit of this, Tyler. No one should have to live under your tyranny." Tyler's phone buzzed with a new notification, and his face paled as he read. "I just lost my promotion. They don't want someone with mental instability at the helm." "You brought this on yourself," I said, feeling a mix of justice and relief. In a fit of anger, Tyler threw his phone across the room, shattering it against the wall. "You've torn everything apart." "No, Tyler, you did," I said coldly. "And now it's time I move on." Marissa handed me an envelope, heavy with legal papers. "You might want to read these, Tyler." He ripped it open, the furious look on his face turning to shock as he read through the divorce papers. Divorce? You're divorcing me? You gave me no other option, I said, my voice steady. This isn't over, he screamed, his face contorted with fury. Oh, it's over, Marissa countered. You have nothing left to control. Tyler slumped onto the debris of our once cozy living room. Where will you go? He asked, voice tinged with desperation. Wherever I choose, I replied, feeling a sense of liberation wash over me. And for the first time in a long time, I'll be free. With that, I walked out the door, Marissa by my side. Tyler's life had shattered into pieces he could never fix. His public persona was tainted, his career in shambles. What once felt like a life trapped in shadows now felt open, filled with possibilities and light. Marissa and I walked towards the future. Tyler's pleas echoed faintly behind us, but I didn't look back. The home I once loved became symbolic of his downfall, a testament to the strength I discovered within myself. You did it, Marissa said, giving my hand a squeeze. We did it, I corrected, grateful for her unwavering support. I knew the road ahead would be challenging, but for the first time in a long time, it felt like my own. One filled with opportunities that no amount of Tyler's tyranny could ever take away. Tyler's pleas faded as Marissa and I walked away from the house. For the first time in ages, I felt an overwhelming sense of freedom. But the feeling was mixed with a sobering awareness of the path ahead. The next few days were a whirlwind. I had legal meetings, packed the few possessions Tyler hadn't managed to sell, and started building my new life. Tyler, on the other hand, was unraveling. I received messages from mutual friends, all detailing the chaos. He's not doing well, one said. He's a mess, added another. While part of me felt satisfaction, another part expected it. One evening, as I was settling into Marissa's spare room, my phone buzzed. Tyler's name flashed on the screen. I hesitated, then answered. Jenna, he said, his voice cracking. I'm sorry, please come back. We can fix this. There's nothing to fix, Tyler. This is the consequence of your actions, I replied firmly. I've lost everything, my job, my reputation. You've taken it all away. No, Tyler, you did this to yourself. Maybe it's time you face that. He was silent for a moment. Is there really no way back? No, Tyler, there isn't, I said, feeling a strange mix of pity and resolve. Goodbye. I hung up, feeling a sense of closure. Tyler was a chapter I was ready to close. The focus was now on rebuilding. A week later, I received a call from an old client. Jenna, we heard about what happened. We want to help you get back on your feet. Are you interested in a new project? Excitement fluttered in my chest. Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. I plunged into work, rediscovering my passion for graphic design. With Marissa's support, I also started rekindling connections with old clients and colleagues. Slowly, my professional life began to flourish. Meanwhile, Tyler's situation continued to deteriorate. Friends sent updates. He's lost the house, one messaged. He's staying with his brother now. Another informed. Tyler was experiencing the full brunt of the consequences he had set in motion. I focused on my new beginning. Months passed, and I moved into a small apartment downtown. It wasn't much, but it was mine, filled with things I chose. No one would ever dictate my peace again. One afternoon, as I worked on a new project, a familiar number flashed on my phone. Tyler's brother, Dan. Jenna, can you talk? Dan asked, sounding weary. Sure, Dan. What's going on? I replied cautiously. It's Tyler. He's hit rock bottom. He needs help. I sighed, a part of me still feeling a pang of old familiarity. What kind of help? He needs to understand what he did. He's talking to a therapist, but hearing it from you might help. I considered it. I'll think about it, Dan, but right now I need to focus on my own healing. Of course. Just thought you should know, Dan said before hanging up. Setting the phone down, I took a deep breath. Tyler's spiral was no longer my concern. I had a fresh canvas in front of me, both in my work and my life. Marissa and I celebrated my first big project post-Tyler. Over drinks, she looked at me and smiled. You did it, Jenna. You got your life back. And I couldn't have done it without you, I replied, gratitude filling my voice. We toasted to new beginnings, to resilience, to the strength it took to reclaim my life. Tyler's downfall was complete, but my journey was just beginning. And with every step, I felt more and more like the person I was always meant to be. The divorce was finalized without much more drama. The emotional weight lifted with the final signatures, and I felt a sense of freedom I hadn't known in years. I moved into my new apartment downtown. It was small, but filled with everything I loved. The walls adorned with art, the shelves stacked with books, and a cozy workspace for my graphic design projects. It was my sanctuary. On my first night alone, Marissa came over with a bottle of champagne. "Here's to new beginnings," she said, raising her glass. "To new beginnings," I echoed, clinking glasses. We laughed and talked until the early hours, the future feeling bright and promising. The next few weeks flew by. I dove into my work, reconnecting with old clients and gaining new ones. The satisfaction of rebuilding my career brought a sense of accomplishment. Each new project became a testament to my resilience. One afternoon, I received a call from Olivia Lane, Marissa's sister. "Jenna, I have a client who needs a top-notch graphic designer. Are you free to discuss?" "Absolutely," I replied, feeling a mix of excitement and gratitude. This connection could open doors I hadn't even considered. Meeting Olivia's client went better than I imagined. They were impressed with my portfolio and enthusiasm. Landing the project felt like validation for everything I endured and overcame. A new chapter was unfolding, and I was ready for it. Meanwhile, I've heard sporadic updates about Tyler. Mutual friends mentioned he was still struggling, his life dismantled, much like what he had done to mine. He moved in with his brother, barely scraping by. He reached out a few more times, apologies intermixed with pleading, but I kept my distance. The door to that part of my life was permanently closed. During a dinner with Marissa, she looked at me with a smile. "You know, you're glowing." I laughed. "Am I? I guess it's the new freedom, the chance to build my life the way I want." "You deserve every bit of happiness," she said, raising her glass again. "To us," I said, taking a sip. Life continued to improve. I settled into a new routine, balancing work and personal time, reconnecting with old friends, indulging in hobbies I had abandoned, art, reading, even taking a new dance class. One afternoon, while sketching at a local park, I ran into an old colleague. "Jenna, is that you?" I looked up, smiling. "It is. How have you been?" Catching up felt nostalgic and refreshing. We talked about future collaborations, sharing ideas and possibilities. My network grew, bringing new opportunities and collaborations. Despite everything, Tyler's shadow lingered. He was a lesson, a reminder of what could happen when one person tries to dominate another. But instead of anger, I felt a strange sense of pity. He had lost everything through his own actions and was now paying the price. One morning, I received a package. Inside was the jewelry box Tyler had thrown out, carefully restored. No note, but I knew it was from Marissa. Tears welled up as I held it, feeling a closure I didn't know I needed. That weekend, Marissa and I went out to celebrate. We danced, laughed, and wondered about the future. The weight had lifted, replaced by hope and excitement. Standing on my apartment balcony that night, looking out at the city lights, I felt a deep sense of peace. Life had thrown curveballs, but I had come out stronger. Revenge wasn't sweet, but justice. Finding my voice and reclaiming my life, that was the real victory. As I prepared for bed, I glanced at a small mirror by my bedside. The reflection showed not just someone who survived, but someone who thrived, someone who embraced every new day with gratitude and a sense of purpose. Tomorrow was another chance to build, to create, to live fully, and I was ready for it.